Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my weekly review of Game of Thrones on HBO. This week we've seen Season 6, Episode 9, which is called Battle of the Bastards. As always, I apologize for the lateness of this review, but, work schedule gets in the way. Then I also really wanted to focus on the finale of Penny Dreadful on Sunday night. But I did just watch the episode of Game of Thrones from this week, a night or two ago. And really amazing episode, really good episode. Probably the best of the season so far, I want to say, for sure. We got one of the absolute biggest battles we've ever gotten in the series so far, and one that probably won't be completely topped until, the final battle of the series, you know what I mean, with that's likely to involve the White Walkers and all our main characters and stuff like that. It's going to be really hard for anything to top it, so I think it's going to have to be that one, if anyone. Really good episode all around. But before we talk about the main battle, with Jon Snow's forces and Ramsay's, we also had some stuff going on with Daenerys as she arrived back after last week, and then we get sort of this standoff with her and Tyrion. Tyrion sort of saying how his plan still worked, and as the Masters are running down fire in the city and such. So Daenerys sort of has to retake control of it. And, it was just a little bit funny just to see Tyrion be proven so wrong, though. I felt like it's a little bit different for the character, because Tyrion's been shown to be so intelligent with strategies and tactics before and stuff. But, he's human, so Tyrion can be wrong. He can make a mistake, But, he seemed to understand it pretty quickly, and I just thought it was kind of funny when they're, in the room with each other. I don't know, I just found it to be kind of entertaining. And then we eventually had the three Masters rounded up to supposedly make a deal with Daenerys, but Daenerys had some other thoughts in mind. Grey Worm ends up killing two of the Masters as Daenerys' dragons set quite a few of the men ablaze, and then they basically send the other Master off to tell the others. And they sort of what Tyrion said to him, about, who Daenerys Targaryen really is, who they'd really be going against and stuff like that. So Tyrion had a pretty badass moment at the end there when the last Master was on his knees, I think. So that was all really good, but the real highlight of this episode was, for sure, the battle for Winterfell, essentially. Of course, with Jon bringing his much significantly smaller army to go against Ramsay. And, I did like the standoff between them, with Jon, Sansa, and Ramsay. And Ramsay sort of acknowledges that, there's stories about Jon being, the greatest swordsman in the world at this point, which I think is probably true, because obviously Jaime's, at an obvious disadvantage. And, I see Jon being seen as, probably the overall most capable fighter that's, now alive out there right now, because, there have probably been stories spread about how he's, fought the White Walkers and such now, maybe. And then, we have, sort of Sansa and Jon debating about the strategy for it, and, Sansa wanting to get in on it a little bit more. And Sansa talks about how they probably won't be able to get Rickon back alive. He's probably going to be dead, because she brings up the idea that Ramsay probably wants him dead even more so than the two of them, because Rickon sort of has this direct claim to the throne, to rule Winterfell, because he's not a bastard and he's not a woman, so people would kind of go to him a little bit more if he were to step up in that sense. And it appears that Sansa would prove to be right a little bit later on. Ramsay wasn't really flying on any mercy with that, of course. But it's Ramsay, so what else would you expect? Me and my girlfriend have talked about it before, who's actually worse, Joffrey or Ramsay. It's really debatable, and of course, when we think of Joffrey, we do think of Ned and such, and what he had done to him. And, of course, he did have, of course, a major mistreatment of Sansa that could have gone a lot further. But me and my girlfriend sort of agree on that. If Joffrey had actually survived for a while longer, he probably would have grew up to be exactly like Ramsay. But as of right now, of course, with Joffrey being dead and, well, Ramsay now too. Ramsay obviously had more time to get more dark, more cruel, and he grew up in a harsher environment as well too. But I did like the standoff, the three of them there, and the battle itself was just really, really well shot. The cinematography, the camera work. Like when the camera focuses on Jon running around on the battlefield, and we see like all these horses racing past, guys running from behind and getting picked off. It was just all looked really smooth. Just the camera work and the cinematography is just great, just excellent, and of course really bloody, very violent. We see how skilled Jon is with it, as we already knew, but it's really cool to see that again. And then we also have the Giant out there too, which is cool to see him make a difference. And eventually Jon, Tormund, the Giant, and the rest of the forces are eventually getting overwhelmed, of course, because he had basically this many men compared to Ramsay's how many men he had out there. And eventually they end up using this shield wall tactic. Ramsay's forces do anyway. Whenever I hear shield wall, I think Vikings, which I need to catch up on at some point. But they basically use the shield wall, then they end up closing in on Jon's forces and sort of cornering them. Tormund's still fighting as much as he can, but he ends up being headbutted over and over. I was a little bit worried about him here. And then Jon ends up just being like trampled and sort of like in this whole pile of bodies and such, almost like suffocating, which is of course pretty intense and something I didn't really think about with all this. But then we have Peter Baelish actually come through because of Sansa's letter to him that she sent out. So the Vale arrives and of course completely blindsides Ramsay and his men. Of course, Ramsay wasn't actually involved in the battle. We knew he wouldn't be. He was just watching from a distance. But the Vale arrives, and they end up helping Jon to fight back and wipe out the rest of Ramsay's soldiers, which is really cool. And we see Baelish and Sansa smirking together on horseback, so that was fun. Excuse me. And then we have Jon sort of emerge out of the pile, and he gives like the biggest death stare ever to Ramsay. Then Ramsay starts running off back to Winterfell to try and get behind the gates. Of course, the main area, and then we have Jon, the Giant, and Tormund chase after him. And some people are wondering if there's gonna be like a trap or some kind of setup Ramsay had on the inside. And then we have the Giant, he actually breaks down the gates, he punches a couple holes through the doors and he ends up getting them in. I almost forgot to talk about the Rickon thing. I mentioned him earlier, but before the battle had taken place, Ramsay let him loose and let him try and run to his brother on the other side. But of course, Ramsay is like casually shooting arrows, and then eventually one of course ends up actually hitting Rickon and killing him just before Jon is able to get to him. And it's something we all kind of figured would happen. It's sort of like what Sansa said. Ramsay wasn't going to let him live, if anything. And Rickon probably should have tried zigzagging instead of just running a straight line the whole time. But it is what it is. But anyway, the Giant ends up breaking down the gate. But what upset me a lot more than Rickon's death is actually what happened to the Giant here. The Giant's very worn down. Even he, eventually gets tired, and he has like all these arrows through him already. He's killed how many men? He probably had how many men like stabbing at his feet or legs and stuff like that. With all of them that were out there. Yes, he can easily crush them, but these numbers eventually they're gonna get some at least decent stabs in on him, even if they're a lot smaller and such. So the Giant's really worn down, but he got him through. He is probably going to survive here. But of course, just as Jon and Tormund sort of have this stare at the Giant, they can see like almost a mutual respect between the three of them, and almost like a gratefulness to what the Giant did for him, just by being such like this, supposedly such a savage, mythical creature, is able to help them like this. And this Giant's been with them since season 5. He helped them at Hardhome. He's the one who supported Snow just recently. But then he gets an arrow through the fucking eye by Ramsay fucking Bolton. That was frustrating, just like Ramsay would, Of course, he obviously couldn't take the giant in a straight up fight, but he wanted to get like that one last little lick in. Oh yeah, look what I just did. Ha ha ha. God, that was annoying. He shoots the arrow through the giant's eye. The giant finally dies, unfortunately. It was sad to see, and I was actually more upset about that happening than Rickon dying. Who honestly really gave a shit about Rickon, to be honest? I mean, of course we cared about him because, of course Jon and Sansa did, and because he's a Stark, we do to some degree, but Rickon, how much screen time has he actually gotten over the whole series? But anyway, the way the giant was killed is, of course, frustrating. But what made it satisfying in the end was, Jon picking up the shield and basically blocking each one of Ramsay's arrows to him. And then eventually Jon gets close enough and just starts beating the shit out of him. He beats his face into a bloody pulp, which is just really fucking satisfying to see. You see Ramsay is hardly able to move, just the face, the bloodshot eye now. That's just really, really cool. Jon stops. He probably could have killed him, but he sort of leaves him to Sansa to decide what to do with him. And Sansa ends up putting him in this, of course, I forget what you'd call it, but where Ramsay is keeping his dogs, and Ramsay makes, these claims saying, oh, they're loyal beasts. And, he also says that he'll remain a part of Sansa, he's a part of her now, she won't be able to forget him. Some people are wondering if Sansa's pregnant with Ramsay's child because, of course, what he forced upon her a while ago, which would be possible, but somehow I don't think they're going to, drag the Ramsay part of it out anymore. I just think it's Ramsay's done now. That's kind of over for him. It's it. But, it's possible, and with as grim as Game of Thrones can be sometimes, I won't be surprised if Sansa's actually pregnant. Then she'd have to deal with, deciding to raise a bastard and not too. But, I don't know, we'll see. It could go either way with that, I guess. But Sansa points out how Ramsay's dogs haven't been fed for 7 days, and Ramsay thinks they'll be loyal, but one of the dogs ends up looking up at him, and you can just see he's getting a little bit more interested in food. And they're basically just starved, and they end up jumping Ramsay and just tearing him apart as he was tied to the chair. It is really just gratifying to see, same way he killed his father's wife and his little brother, and just a very painful way to die in general. And it was nice seeing Sansa's smug smirk as she walked away. That was awesome. And of course, it was equally satisfying to see the Bolton banners be dropped down and the Stark banners finally be put up on Winterfell again. Just very, very, good to see after the whole series. It's just very nice to see that again. And then I forgot to mention we also had, Daenerys meeting with Theon and his sister, and I sort of like a little flirty, back and forth Theon's sister and Daenerys had as she tells her about how their uncle wants to give her his big cock. And they just sort of laugh that off, and it looks like they're going to work well together. We have Tyrion, he sort of puts down Theon because he remembers meeting him back in Season 1 and how brash and arrogant he was. But, not everyone knows completely what Theon's been through. He has very much changed because of the trauma. So it'll be interesting to see if they have more conversations later. But, that was fine too. But that battle and Ramsay finally being killed is just really satisfying. Ramsay's been in it for a while now. Was looking at the exact episode we first seen him in. Let me see. Yeah, he was first seen in the Dark Wings, Dark Words episode, which was the second episode of the third season. Yeah, so he's been there for a while. And it was just, he's a very big villain, antagonist death, and really good episode all around. Great battle. Was it the best episode? I mean, the best battle of the series? Maybe. The only one I'd debate with it against would probably be the battle, for the Wall back in Season 4. But, again, different circumstances, almost a different type of battle, of course. But yeah, the battle at the Wall, Hardhome was great too, but that was more like an ambush and them trying to get away and survive. That wasn't quite the same. But this, Hardhome to an extent, the battle on the Wall, and what probably will be the final battle within the next season, or within the final 2 seasons, are probably the best for sure. Best episode of the series, not to me personally, but it depends what you want. As far as action goes, I could easily see why it is, and we did get a very satisfying death of a big villain, so I can see why it would be some people's favorite. It's definitely one of the best episodes of the series for sure. But I still think back to the children with Tyrion killing his father and such. It's a different type of moment to remember, though. Like I said, it's different. It just kind of depends on what you're really wanting. But yeah, great episode. Definitely one of the best of the series, no question. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's late, but I want to get my thoughts out there anyway eventually. And as far as my next videos go, the next ones I plan on, I want to give my thoughts on the previews that have been released for The Strain on FX lately. Season 3 coming up in August. I want to do a reflection video giving more updated thoughts on what I thought of the Penny Dreadful finale, what I think of it now. And I'm going to force myself to watch the first live-action Resident Evil movie within the next day or two, and I'll probably do a review on that at some point as well. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and look for info@the.com. Catch you guys next time, and peace.